I want to welcome to the show Professor Christopher Oura. He'll be talking to us in just a little bit about the novel coronavirus. But just before that, let's give you an update on the latest, not only around the globe, but also around the region. There was a suspected case in Jamaica over the weekend. Rashad Khan has that story.
Within the past 24 hours, there have been almost 3,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus reported globally. However, over 99% of these new cases were on mainland China. This brings the total number of confirmed cases worldwide to just over 17,000. Also occurring within the last 24 hours was the first coronavirus fatality to occur outside of the virus's epicenter, mainland China. The BBC reports that a 44-year-old Chinese man from Wuhan died on Sunday in the Philippines. The World Health Organization says the man appears to have been infected before traveling to the country. Meanwhile, the Philippine authorities say the man had underlying health complications. Taking a look now closer to home, Jamaica had another suspected case over the weekend, which was subsequently dismissed. On Saturday, a woman recently returned from China and displayed flu-like symptoms and was taken to hospital. However, the Jamaican Ministry of Health and Wellness explained that upon examination, the patient did not meet the case definition for novel coronavirus. Rashad Khan, CNC3 News.
Thank you very much for your reporting on this story and continuing to follow this story as well, Rashad. Professor Oura, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Difficult man to get onto the show, but we do appreciate you here. The coronavirus has many questions still lingering on it, as opposed to how many answers we actually have about this virus. Is that an accurate statement?
I think that's a very accurate statement. We have to remember that we've only known about this virus for around 4 or 5 weeks. So it's a very, very new virus. So we're learning all the time, yeah.
It's emerged in China, which we were joking a little bit before the cameras started rolling that China is seemingly becoming a hotbed, a hub, really, for many of the global viruses that is sweeping across the world, especially influenza type.
Well, so we have to remember that 4 out of 5 of the new and emerging viruses that we're seeing in humans. So these are viruses like the influenza viruses, like Ebola virus, like chikungunya and dengue, a lot of these viruses that we know, 4 out of 5 of them have come through animals. So the majority of these viruses originated in animals, and they've come through animals, and they've made a jump into humans. So it's where in the world that you have these viruses are given the opportunity to make that jump, because viruses are very intelligent little things, and they want to move around because it's good for them to be able to move, jump species, because they have the chance to replicate more and spread more. So when you get viruses, so these viruses, if they are in certain areas where there's a close contact between humans and animals, they make that jump. And countries like China, as many of us have heard about with this virus, they have these wildlife markets, animal markets, which are quite not very hygienic, where there's a lot of they eat a lot of wildlife, they sell a lot of wildlife, they butcher a lot of wildlife. So people are in close contact with these animals, and then these viruses from the wildlife in those markets get the opportunity to jump across into humans, and we've seen it with other viruses in the past. So it's not just China, though. This is also happening in other countries, like Ebola virus that jumped across from animals into humans in Africa, and it will continue to jump across from animals to humans in Africa because it's present in forests, and when humans go into the forest, they come into contact with the bats or monkeys, and it jumps across. So something can be done about it. As I heard this morning on my way in, that China are now saying, after a long period of time, that they are going to take they're going to think very carefully about banning these markets, because that will do a lot to stop these viruses from jumping from animals to humans.
Can you just expand on jumping? So is it that they're in close contact, the blood, the blood of the animal, consuming it through eating it, is that how it jumps from the animal into the human?
So it's a good question. So some viruses, and we don't really understand why, have more of an ability to be able to jump from animals to humans. And these coronaviruses, most of the coronaviruses, there's lots and lots of coronaviruses in this family. It's a very big family, and some of them don't have the propensity to jump so efficiently from animals to humans. But this particular group, this small group of coronaviruses, which includes this new one, also includes SARS, which people can remember a couple of decades ago, which caused a lot of problems. There's another one in the Middle East called MERS. That particular group of viruses seems to have the ability to jump, and that's probably because of which animals are the reservoirs for it. And all three of these viruses almost certainly originated in bats. So that's not to say there's any bats are doing anything wrong. It's more, these viruses are bat viruses, but they have the propensity to jump if given the opportunity. So if you get a situation, and they don't have to come necessarily from bats directly to humans. SARS virus came from bats and it jumped to civet cats, and then it jumped from civet cats to humans. MERS virus jumped from bats to camels, and then camels to humans.
Because viruses spread, right?
Viruses are changing all the time. That's their nature. That's their raison d'etre. They want to. They need to change. They need to infect more cells to spread themselves. And some of them have really intricate mechanisms whereby they can change. And these particular viruses, like coronaviruses or influenza viruses, they're pretty smart at changing. They're made up of RNA, and those RNA viruses are much more are mutating all the time. And as they mutate, they gain the ability to do different things, to jump species. They gain the ability, suddenly you get one virus that doesn't cause any clinical signs, and then it becomes nasty and causes clinical signs. Or one virus that can't spread very easily from human to human, and it mutates and gains that ability. So the more a virus mutates, or the more dangerous it can be, and the more chance it has to jump species like we're seeing.
But when these viruses seem to emerge, it tends to infect some humans, but not others.
Yeah.
Some are more culpable to dying from it and being affected by it, but not others.
Mm-hmm. So this is a very interesting point, is that you've got the nature of the variability of the virus on one side, but you've also got the nature of the variability of us, the humans. And humans are very different. Genetically, we can be very different. It's also, so some people have some natural resistance to viruses. Also, it's a nature of our immune system. We hear about some people have weaker immune systems than others, so some people are more susceptible. That's why everybody says we all need to eat healthily, we all need to exercise to stimulate our immune system. So yes, there is variability in people as to who gets the virus. When you get a cold virus going around in a family, and two people will get it really badly. One person will not get it very badly or just mildly, and then another couple of people won't get it at all. That's the nature of the variability of us as human population, in the human populations. You've got those two things to think about. So we're seeing with this coronavirus, actually, it's very interesting at the moment, because slowly we're sort of seeing, I think, more evidence for the fact that there are quite a lot of people out there who aren't suffering very badly from it. In other words, they're showing low-level, quite mild symptoms, and we may well find the case as we move forward, like we did with H1N1 swine flu. There's a lot of people in the population that didn't show any clinical signs at all. So only then will we know the true mortality, how many people actually get sick and how many people die that get the virus. At the moment, we're possibly just seeing the tip of the iceberg, because we're seeing people who go to hospital, and those are more likely to die. But if there's lots of people sitting at home with mild symptoms, and there's lots of people sitting at home with no symptoms at all, slowly we will understand the true nature of this virus. The problem is, though, if there's lots of people sitting at home without symptoms and lots of people sitting at home with mild symptoms, that's going to spread, because those people are still going to potentially spread the virus.
Let's have a global outlook on it. You mentioned a few minutes ago that the Chinese government will move to close these markets that has really been, that has been plagued by these viruses and created these viruses over the last 10, 12 years. But just as well, it's been a political football in many ways. A couple of days ago, the Chinese government accused the United States of overreacting on the virus. The United States accused the Chinese government of not doing enough. Are you satisfied with the global response? It is a global health emergency. Could more have been done? Was it not taken seriously enough at an earlier stage?
I think it's extremely difficult to condemn what the Chinese are doing because they seem to be taking this virus extremely seriously, what they're doing, and they're really pushing to try to stop it, obviously spreading from their country. So I don't think we can condemn what they're saying. I think at the very start of an outbreak like this, when you have a novel virus appearing, it's very, very difficult to be able to stamp on it straight away because it's a new virus. It's a new virus, so you have no diagnostic test for it. And as Dr. Partap Singh said before, there's many other viruses out there that are causing exactly the same symptoms. So there's always this lag period at the start when you have a new virus, usually. So we might get to see that lag period was a bit long as we move forward, and maybe China could have stamped on it earlier, and they'll learn from that. But from what I'm seeing at the moment, China are doing all they can to try to control this virus from both in their country and trying to stop it from getting out.
Should we be worried here in Trinidad and Tobago? We're approaching a carnival season. Should we be worried?
Well, I don't think we need to panic. We should, as previous guests said, we need to make sure we put up the right precautions. We try to stop the virus from coming into the country. We screen people, like we've heard is happening at our borders. We make sure that we have a lab available, which we have at Carrefour, that can carry out the testing very rapidly. We make sure we have a quarantine area just in case people do come in. So we make sure we sit back and we learn from all the other countries that have had the virus and from China. So we are very prepared. We have contingency planning like we're having. And so one, we stop the virus from coming in. Two, if the virus does come in, we're able to snuff it out immediately. And we'll be learning a lot from what happens in these other countries where they've had 2 or 3 cases or 10 cases. Because if it's like SARS, more like SARS, there will be clusters which we'll be able to stamp out because it's not transmitted long distances in aerosol. It's more direct contact as far as we know, close contact. So if it's like SARS, we should be able to, as long as we can catch it quickly, we should be able to stamp it out.
Professor Christopher Oura, we really appreciate you being on the Morning Brew. He's a vet virologist, and we really appreciate you being
Thank you.
To shed some light on this virus, and we hope that you come back soon.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you very much. Let's take a quick break here on the Morning Brew. We'll be right back.